So welcome to the podcast, Spirituality and Wellbeing. Today we'll be talking about energy healing, how you can heal your mind, body, and soul. I'm Kat Bazilko from Soul Level Healing, and I have Melanie Stevens with me.
Hi, I'm Melanie Stevens. I'm a spiritual teacher.
Right. So today we'll be talking about energy healing. It's a good episode for, beginners and just enthusiasts, I guess, of energy healing. I feel it's a very broad subject, really. And if you look online, I did actually have a quick look before we went on what would come up if you type in what is energy healing. And it says that it's a holistic approach to healing mind, body, and spirit. I think it said mind, body, and soul, or mind, body, and spirit. And that it's rooted in ancestral times, the origins of energy healing. However, the examples that are given at the very top search anyway is mainly traditional Chinese medicine and Ayurveda. So that's, from what I understand, more of energy healing on your physical, with the manipulation on your physical body. So working with your energy meridians, more like than what we will be talking about today. Because, like I say, it's mind, body, and spirit, and so there are many modalities that can cover all of these aspects of us. What do you think of that, Mel?
Yeah, it's quite broad, isn't it, really? And I think that's quite a good description, the balancing of mind, body, and spirit, and the alignment of mind, body, and spirit. Because when we work on our energy, we're not working on our energy and ignoring our physical body, or working on our energy and ignoring our emotions or anything. It's all connected anyway, and it is that holistic approach. And I always think of holistic with the word whole sort of coming from that term, to sort of bring us back into alignment and not to omit any of those areas when we are working on our energy, which encompasses all of us anyway, including the physical.
Yeah, exactly. So I just thought maybe before we go into some examples, because Mel and I, we have some examples of energy healing that we will share with you guys. And before we go in there, I guess it might be worth just mentioning what energy around us is, or what energy do we exude, or if we go to an energy worker, let's say, or energy healing professional, what are they actually working on, really? And that's where we can learn about our chakras and our aura. So chakras would be our energy centers, and they are located at different sites of our body, along our spine and beyond. And they all have different colors. They would change depending on what's happening in our lives, and energy wise, if we're going through some emotional stress or whatever thoughts are busy in our mind, it creates some sort of a emotional and energetic footprint, I guess we could say. And then our chakras can change in size. Am I saying it right? It's more like they might be overextended, or they might be suppressed a little bit blocked. And then around us we have our aura. So correct me if I'm wrong, Mel, but the way I understand it, our chakras then would be represented in our aura as well, in like the first layer, I think, of our aura. And then we have, like, what is it, around 7 layers in our aura, I think, where we have the mental, emotional layer, also then the spiritual one, and then it extends more and more out towards our higher self, is how I understand it.
Yeah, that's my understanding as well. I remember looking into it and feeling a bit confused and having to sort of drop it and go back to it and get my head around it. That the chakras are part of the aura, and the aura is part of our energy field, because we've got energy within our bodies and without. But the aura is specifically the layers, as you've said, that start an inch or so outside the body and go out. And I've read it as well that there are 7 layers that correspond to the 7 major chakras. So the outermost layer corresponds to the crown chakra. So that is that spiritual layer that's the one that vibrates the highest. And they come in, they're slightly denser as they get closer to the physical body.
Yes, that's right. Yes, I did exactly the same thing. Like you said, I had to read and reread and reread again to get around how it was the connection with the chakras and the aura. How does that work? But yeah, so then you have that's when you enter, I suppose, energy healing. That's how it can work on different levels. You can go to an energy healer such as a Reiki healer. You do Reiki, so you'll be definitely better in explaining that. But I'll just start by saying that I'm sure Reiki helps with chakra rebalancing, and I know that obviously we can also clear our aura. But do you know of it going anywhere deeper in any way when it comes to cleansing our aura and the layers of the aura? I don't know.
In terms of working on an individual layer. Oh, with Reiki, well, with Reiki, it's interesting because the way we learn Reiki in the West is to use it with the chakras and the energy system in that regard. But actually, Reiki is a Japanese energy healing system, and the chakra system comes from India. So they are two different things, if you like. But the way Reiki was originally taught in Japan has changed as it's come over to the West. And we actually are taught when we learn Reiki, many of us, even with the traditional style of learning Reiki, like I learned traditional Usui Reiki, there was an extra lesson in there about using Reiki with the chakras. So I believe a lot of Western teachers include the chakras anyway with Reiki. So I will very often focus the Reiki energy on a specific chakra, and I work with the aura as well. But what I don't do is work with the individual layers of the aura. I just work with the aura as a whole. So with Reiki, you do an aura check where you move your hands around the aura, and you can feel hot or cold spots, which indicates there's something there that it's an energy blockage or something that needs to be worked on. But it's more broad. We sort of work on the aura as a whole, and we work on the chakras, but I've never worked specifically with a layer of the aura.
Yeah.
If that makes
sense. Yeah, it does. And just maybe to explain a little bit, I just thought for those that maybe are beginner, maybe the energy healing is, they've never heard of it that much, or they might have heard, I'm pretty sure most of us have heard something about it, but we're not sure how that works. Within the aura, where our physical, it's like an energy footprint of our physical health, our mental health, emotional and spiritual, not even just health, but just being. So if you have, when you're thinking, then your mental side of the aura would be active and it would have certain colors. When you're going through emotions, it's the emotional layer that then represents your emotional state. That's where you can get aura pictures taken, and then different colors around you would come up on the picture. And that would, each color would then mean something, right? So when we go through life and we're ill or healthy, we're thinking about things, we're going through emotional ups and downs, we fear, we're happy, we're excited. All of these, this is all energy, and it's all imprinted and illustrated, I would say, or represented in our aura. That's our energy body. That's where all of it sits. So anything that we have brought from our upbringing, anything that we pick up on a daily basis, but also anything that we maybe carry on a collective level, and also ancestral. So we might inherit certain emotions, for example, or thought patterns, just ways of being, and they can sit in our aura. So then, depending on which healing modality you go for, it might most likely it would affect most of your energy anyway, but a lot of energy healing modalities have some sort of a focus. So for instance, there are many modalities that focus on ancestral healing, generational healing. There are some that focus on clearing mental blocks, right? There are all kinds of things really. And sometimes I guess one can get a little bit confused as to what they actually need. What do you think of that?
Yeah, it's identifying what it is, and like you say, have I got a block in my energy because of something I'm doing? Is it ancestral? Is it something I've picked up? First of all, I think it's important to recognize if it's your own energy or someone else's before we start diving into, is it an ancestral blockage? Is it past life? Because that can still remain in our aura, or is it someone else's? So if I'm feeling really off, particularly if I wasn't feeling like that earlier, the first thing I do is ground cleanse, protect. And during that, the cleansing part is me calling in. I usually call in one of the elements. You can ask your spirit guides to do this. You can ask your higher self to do this. And you ask a being to remove anything from your energy field, because the energy field includes the aura, all the chakras, all the bits of it. Remove anything from your energy field that doesn't belong with you and that isn't for your highest good. Now, if I've picked up someone else's negative emotion, if that goes quite quickly, then I know it wasn't mine that I was carrying. That's the first step. And then at least I've got that clarity that if I feel better, it's because I've been in a crowd of people and I've picked something up. Or if I'm in a situation, I've gone out and I'm in a room or I'm in a shop or I'm somewhere where I'm feeling uncomfortable. If I leave and that feeling goes, I know it wasn't mine anyway. If it stays with me and it follows me around for a bit and it's still with me, then I might need to sit with that and work out what it is. And before I start trying to heal it, I would sit and meditate with that and actually ask my spirit guides, show me what this is. Where is it in my body? What's it coming from? Does it feel like a physical pain? Does it feel like gripiness in my tummy? Do I feel nervous, anxious? Am I feeling panicky? Where is it in my chakra system? So I feel it where it is in my body, and then I ask the questions and just trust what comes into my head as to what it is and to what I need to do with it. If it's something I feel that's from a past life, I might pop a past life meditation on YouTube and listen to that and clear it. So I trust where I'm guided, what thoughts come into my head, because they might be coming in from my spirit guides.
Yeah, exactly. So if you're, whoever's listening, and if you're not sure, that you need some help, maybe, and you're interested in receiving some energy healing and you're not sure where to start, I think a good start is how you mentioned, Mel. It's what you're maybe most drawn to at first. Just follow your gut. Don't worry about trying to understand everything intellectually when it comes to the different modalities and choosing it that way. It's like, what do you like the sound of, even? Or if there's someone local to you that does an energy healing modality and you feel like you would like to try it out, then go for it. It never will be wasted. And it usually is a journey anyway. You start with one thing and then you continue. So yeah. Now, it's why could energy healing help you? Because I did mention to start with the chakras and the aura and how each layer represents the health and the being of each of those states. It's good to remember that our mental state, our emotional state affects our physical body, and the state of our soul also affects our physical body. Therefore, that's why you might want to get interested in that. If you're dealing with a health issue, a physical health issue that maybe is quite persistent, it would be good to look into energy healing also as an additional help, because then you will be addressing the issue from all levels, really. Um, so yeah, I mean, when it comes to intro, let's say, to energy healing, I think that's most what I wanted to cover. Is there anything else that you wanted to say, Mel?
I think that when it comes to, I mean, if you said earlier you went on Google and looked at what is energy healing, but if you went onto the internet and search for an energy healer, there's all sorts of different things going to come up. You're going to see Reiki practitioners and Reiki masters. You might see hypnotherapists, because that's working with your unconscious mind and your energy. You might see people doing something called Sekim, which is an Egyptian energy healing modality. There's so many different ways that we can heal ourselves energetically, and it might be a bit overwhelming. What I would say is have a look, do some research without being too without focusing on it so much that you overwhelm yourself. So try and get into a nice relaxed state before you start looking around, and then go to who you're drawn to. I mean, recommendations are always great. People that you know are always great. If you don't know what type of energy you want, talk to me, talk to Kat. It might be that we can say, look, it sounds like you could benefit from this or from this, because there are different things that suit different people, and sort of trust where you're taken, because there'll be a reason for it. Sometimes with energy healing, it works on your energy, and it can feel, to those who aren't that sensitive to energy, which is most people, to be fair, it's very subtle. So you might sort of say, well, I just feel a bit more relaxed. What did it actually do? But what it releases blockages in your energy that will show up in ways that might be surprising. Can show up in your dreams, can show up in your relationships, it can show up with your emotions. Sometimes you can have Reiki or similar, and suddenly you feel a great need to cry. So that's not saying that if you have an energy healing session, it's going to make you cry. But if it does, trust that whatever it's done to you is for your highest good, because a good energy healing practitioner will only ever do what's for your highest good, even if it's out of their normal process, because we kind of work a bit more intuitively. So we'll go wherever we feel drawn. The energy will go to where it's needed, and it will show up in your life in the way that it's meant to. And that might be a relationship or friendship falling away that isn't serving your highest good anymore. Energy healing, our energy affects everything in our life. What comes back to us is a reflection of what's happening within our energy. So it's good to journal after you've had an energy healing session, to notice the changes in your emotions, in your physical body. Has a pain shifted that you weren't even aware of? How's your sleep? And notice what's happening around you.
Yes, that's a very good point, and one to remember that after an energy healing, you might actually feel a little bit worse afterwards. You might consider it feeling worse. Like you said, you might cry, you might actually feel quite low. But if that's the case, it's because the energy healing is working, and you are feeling this way because you have to release this energy. That's the whole beauty of energy healing, is that it clears our system from all of the stuck, suppressed, let's say, emotions, feelings that we've been carrying, that are then making us ill physically also. And in order to cleanse your body and your being of it, is to release it, so it has to come out. Whenever you're going through, you might experience that sort of you might experience that if you're, for example, on anxiety or antidepressant pills. Oftentimes they do suppress. They act on our physical self only, so they're just suppressing the chemical reactions that are happening in our body. They're not really addressing, the origins of maybe that anxiety or depression that's coming on. So when they're suppressed and then you put them away, suddenly everything comes back, and probably maybe even a little bit stronger than you were when you started. So yeah, I guess I just wanted to put that in there, just for people to know that if you are feeling a little bit low after a session, it's not because something went wrong, it's actually good. You have to start releasing it, because unless you release all of these stuck emotions, then you won't be healed, right? Because the healing is coming back to balance. So yeah, just keep that in mind. It doesn't mean that it will definitely happen this way, although if you're new, then most likely it will. But then if you continue receiving energy healing, then probably over time you will start coming out of the session with feeling uplifted, rather than maybe a little bit, down and low and wanting to cry. So yeah, a good thing to keep in mind.
Yeah, and I think that's why the journaling is quite useful as well, because you have a session of energy healing, and you sort of think, oh, I feel nice and relaxed. You just carry on with your life. The next day you wake up, oh, I had a terrible nightmare last night, and then something breaks, and then something else happens, and you have a really bad day, and you completely forget that you had the energy healing session the day before. So journaling just keeps it in mind, so that if things like that happen, it's old stuff being cleared out. It's old trapped emotions that are just temporarily coming to the surface in order to be shifted out. And after they've been shifted out, you do feel so much better. Otherwise, there'd be no point doing it, because nobody would have something that's going to make them feel worse. We do it because we want to feel better, but there might be just that little short-term increase in whatever it was that you went to have the energy healing for. If that's a physical pain, it might feel like it's got worse. It hasn't. It's coming up to the surface, and as it comes up to the surface, we're more aware of it and we feel it more, so it might feel more intense, whether that's an emotion or a physical pain. But as it comes up, it moves out and it's gone. If we don't do that and we just keep pushing it down, okay, we might not be feeling it to its full capacity, but we're just suppressing it, and it will sabotage you because it'll keep trying to come up. Your emotions want to be felt, your pain wants to be felt. It's all trying to draw your attention to something. And I do love the old saying, feeling is healing, because it is. It's a horrible thing at the time, but just remember that if you sat there in floods of tears or something's happened, the more you can let that out, the more you'll come to actually quite enjoy that healing period, because you're sitting and having a really good sob. You're going to feel so much lighter once that, whatever that is, has shifted out.
Yeah, and we're still, a lot of people still are live with the belief that to be strong means to not show emotion, to not feel things, and just block it and suppress it, and pretend like everything's good, and put a happy face on. But that's so far away from the truth. So yeah, as we're on a bit of a topic of stuck energy, emotional energy, I thought I'll start giving an example of a modality that I have personally received sessions from, and I continue to. I'm a big fan, and I think it's really worthwhile for people to have a look into it, if it sounds like, if you like it, basically. And that's the Emotion, Body, and Belief Code. It's been designed by Dr. Bradley Nelson in the US. He, if I remember correctly, was a chiropractor. And he noticed at some point that a lot of his patients that had they obviously came in with a physical issue to him. He noticed that they were carrying a certain emotional state with them. So I don't know the whole story. I don't want to spoil it anyway for anyone. So just have a look yourself. But what this modality does is it shifts any stuck energy, any stuck emotions from your body, and basically gets rid of it. And as an effect, it heals your body, whether it's a physical complaint or emotional complaint of any sort. The belief code has just been launched, actually, just recently, just the end of last year, actually. And I really like it. I have received it already, and it really digs deep into the core beliefs that you carry with you, that then create certain emotional states or mental states, that you carry with you, and that can affect your physical health. So with the emotion or body code, it would be just kind of focusing on your emotions and clearing them. Whereas now they added an extra layer of belief. So the whole belief, the very origin of that emotion, and it kind of like clears the whole your whole being with the roots, let's say. So it goes back all the way to the roots, whether it's this lifetime or I think maybe even previous, or at least inherited things from family. So that is one that I wanted to mention before I move on to the next one. Did you want to share anything, any modalities that you maybe received or you offer yourself? Maybe, I don't know. Do you?
Oh, I don't offer
Yeah.
Reiki sessions anymore, but I do with animals. So I do offer animal healing, and I use Reiki for that. But I've kind of developed a bit of my own system now. I was given some symbols in meditation a while ago that I use instead of the traditional Japanese Reiki symbols. So I just use those and connect into the energy in the same sort of way. But for anybody that is interested in Reiki, is very popular and very easily accessible. So that's a really nice one to start with, to explore and to see how that feels. And then I did a course a couple of years ago in it's Divine I Am transmissions. The divine I am being the soul, our divine essence of who we are, which was really teaching me channeled healing. So it's a bit like spiritual healing, I would say. It's connecting to a higher source and allowing the healing to come through you in the same way we do with Reiki. The only difference is the process is different. But personally, I believe all of the universal energy we're accessing through these modalities comes from the same source. But it's just the process and how we connect to it that differs. So that's why it's good to go with something that calls to you. And that's an interesting one that you've just mentioned, the what's it called again, the mind
Belief code or
the belief
emotion.
code, emotion
Body
belief
belief
code. Yeah, emotion body belief code. So going to the very core essence is what makes energy healing work so beautifully, because it's not surface level, it's really going deep. So that sounds like a really good one as well. No, I don't think there's any others that I've used myself.
Yeah, there are some others that I've used, but it's not something that I was going to mention really right now in this episode. Anyway, if anyone's interested and would like to know, just message me and I'll let you know. But this is one that I am a continuous client for, let's say, because I really found it valuable. And it looks like it's getting bigger and bigger. You can also look into doing it for yourself at some point if you feel ready. There are books that teach you on how to do it, because yeah, you can have a look at that as well. You don't have to go to a practitioner, although I do feel like it's definitely valuable to go to one, because they're obviously trained and they practice this modality quite a bit. Now, the other healing modality that I wanted to share is the one that I am now learning and I'm very excited about, because I actually didn't know that this is how it works until I started reading about it, and that's flower essences. So for all of my life, pretty much since I can remember, I've been interested in physical health and kind of any remedies that are natural, herbal, come from the earth in a unchanged way, let's say. However, I haven't really heard of flower essences, but when I did, I kind of thought it's sort of like herbalism, but it turns out it's not exactly like that. It's even better, I think. Well, for my, from my own point of view, there are many flower essences that you can buy these days. I am only just starting out on this course, so I haven't learned many of them yet, apart from the Bach or Bach's, I think you read his surname, Bach's flower remedies, which are quite popular all over the world, from what I understand, and they might be most people might have heard of those before they heard of any other ones because they've been going on for a long while. Now, when I started reading about Bach, so Bach was Dr. Edward Bach was also an English, I believe, physician in early 1900s. He was a medically trained doctor, so as in the Western medical science. He started off working as a Western doctor at the time, and throughout his lifetime, he has developed flower essence remedies. And I'm reading a book about him right now, and it is very, very fascinating. He he wanted, since he was little, he wanted to heal the sick. He loved nature and he wanted to heal the sick. So he had this mission. He felt he has a mission in this lifetime is to find cure for sickness, because it greatly saddened and upset him when he would see people suffering, and even when they were going, receiving different treatments or medication, he never saw any cure, really. It was mainly just to cover up the symptoms, or, kind of carrying on with the disease itself or condition itself, but maybe the symptoms were a little bit lesser, maybe a little bit less painful, but never cured. So he had this mission to find a cure, and so he felt like he has to obviously study medicine and go through that path to find that cure. And he went through, starting from Western medicine, through homeopathy. He was a bacteriologist as well, so he had a very extensive knowledge on bacteria. Within the homeopathic medicine, should I call it? Yeah. He also contributed quite a lot to that whilst he was busy being involved. But then even that he left to find flower essences, because he wanted to create a cure that will be the easiest and the least invasive. So even with I think at some point he created, through homeopathy, he created really successful treatment, but through inoculation. You still had to inject something, and he kept thinking, no, it needs to be better. It needs to be better, so I don't have to inject people, or even do anything, cause any sort of I don't want to say damage, because it's not damage, but any sort of discomfort.
Yeah.
I didn't want to create any sort of discomfort, and so he kept on going and going, until he reached the flower essences that he intuitively selected. He was a very highly intuitive and very sensitive energetically as an individual. And his last, 7 years or so of his life, he dedicated to finding the right flowers growing wildly in England, Wales, I think mainly, that had the vibrational frequency that he was looking for to cure whatever it is that needed to be cured. Because through all of these years that he's been studying and practicing medicine, he noticed that it's not that everyone reacts to a treatment differently. So you could have two people that have the same issue, but one treatment would work for one, but it wouldn't work for the other. Something else had to happen. And he noticed that oftentimes the treatment wouldn't work the same way for everyone, because everyone has a different temperament. So they have a different personality. And he noticed that whilst offering the Western medicine and then homeopathy, and so it continued into flower essences, he noticed that it's more that the disease or the condition shows up in your body based on your temperament or your personality, let's call it. So the flower essences have been created to focus on your personality. And even more so, because the flowers themselves have a very high vibrational frequency of creation. They are very highly vibrational physical beings, really. The the energy from the flower acts upon your it's like it enhances your soul's quality, and through that enhancement it then gets rid of, or let's say it floods away everything that's not of that high vibrational frequency, meaning it gets rid of all the low vibration, all of the physical effects of whatever disharmony you carry in your body, whether it's emotional, mental. And he kind of like how he talks about it is he says that we have a soul, which we know by now here. And anyway, if you're listening to it, we would have the soul. Then you have the higher self, that is kind of like a midway or connection between your soul and your ego, your physical self. And if your, which he calls personality, so that's your personality, your ego is your personality. And your soul, as it incarnates, it comes in with a certain plan, right? So the soul has a purpose. It wants to express itself in a certain way, and through that experience life in a certain way. And let's say the soul is like the boss or the command, and then down through the higher self and our aura and then into our personality is where that, let's say, the plan or that commandment, let's say, would go down, and then it would realize itself through our personality and in our life, through manifesting and creating our life. But sometimes, oftentimes, our personality loses the connection between itself and the soul and the higher self, really. Sometimes when the soul, for example, wants to experience, let's say, courage in life. So this would be the quality, the virtue of a soul. It incarnated to experience courage. It would send the signal through to the personality, our ego, but our ego might misinterpret it or might have blocks or limiting beliefs that will not let it follow that message. So for instance, if the soul says, I want to experience courage, and then in ideal world, in ideal scenario, our personality would pick it up, and depending on our circumstances and our life, let's say that person will think, okay, I'm going to start a business, and it will be, I don't know, I'm going to be a mechanic, right? And this is me. And then you go and open a mechanical shop, and you're a mechanic, and you're experiencing that courage through going through everything to do with setting up a business, running a successful business. And this is how the soul is basically being expressed and within your life. Now, if there is some sort of disharmony, or if you have picked up limiting beliefs along the way since you were born, in this example, you would receive the gut feeling or little inspiration like, oh, I would really love to open my shop, but I don't think I should because my dad maybe had a failed business or he went bankrupt. So I don't see why I would be any different. I'm not good enough. I'm not, all of these things. And it doesn't realize that commandment, let's call it, from a soul, that path that the soul has decided to experience. And that's where, when that disharmony and that disconnection happens, is when eventually over time, our bodies create conditions, physical illness, because the energy or the soul's expression is continually blocked. It's blocked, continually blocked. And it creates some sort of a disease or condition in our body. But but that obviously happens throughout years, sometimes lifetimes. So then when he found the flower essences, and each flower would vibrate frequency at a certain level of each virtue. So let's say courage, he would find a flower that would help with that courage. When you take the flower essence, it basically floods your system with this highly vibrational frequency of courage, which then washes away, all the limiting beliefs or whatever was standing in the way. And as an effect, it then also helps your physical health. So that's basically how he created those remedies um, that he continued to prescribe to people depending on their temperament and how they carried themselves in life. So if he noticed that someone is maybe very enthusiastic and wants to, then he would give something for that, and then that kind of rebalances that state of being that person, and then cures the illness or the physical illness. So, yeah, that's basically what that is about. And yeah, and it's not invasive, right? So you don't have to take any definitely not inoculations or anything. It's very pure in design, and it basically goes straight to that channel. It almost like clears that channel, I suppose you could say, between the soul and your ego. Yeah.
You take. I mean, I've used a couple of them actually. I've got can't remember which ones they were, but I've got the bottles over there. They you use them in dropper form, don't you? The ones you drop them either on the tongue or under the tongue, so it
Mm-hmm.
enters the bloodstream faster. I understand from doing it that way. But I mean, you're talking like 3 or 4 drops. There is a little bit of a taste, not a lot, and it's not the nicest taste, but it's not awful either. You don't notice it. You just, a couple of drops and it's gone. But I think is the brandy in it or something? There's something to hold the
Yeah.
essence within it.
Essence. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a little bit of a taste with it, but not a lot. They're very easy to take, non-invasive. I think I was taking mine 2 or 3 times a day. I just put it on my desk so I saw it, so I wouldn't forget to take it. Took it in the morning, afternoon, and then again before bed. And I, for mine, I stuck with like one at a time and just worked through the whole bottle until it had gone. I didn't keep mixing different ones because I wanted to see the impact it was having. I wanted to just work with that one at a time. So if anybody would like, are you ready to? Do you already offer that service?
Not yet.
All right.
No, not yet.
Future then.
Yeah, but definitely this year, I think, at some point. Yeah. But if anyone has any questions, you can already ask me some questions, and I'll be happy to look for the answers if I don't know them. But yeah, it's I found it very, very fascinating when I started reading about it, because it's exactly the kind of healing that I would be interested in.
Yeah.
I just didn't, like I said, didn't realize. I thought it works more like herbs, which is still more of an effect on the physical side of things, rather than addressing it from the higher perspective, I suppose.
Mm-hmm. I don't see why they can't go hand in hand anyway. I mean,
Oh yeah, they would. Yeah,
lots
yeah,
of herbal teas and stuff that I drink, and I'm quite into that as well, and herbal medicines. And I've took back flower remedies alongside it. It's all natural. Just because it's natural doesn't mean it's not potent, though. I think that's worth pointing out. That
exactly. It's more potent, I believe.
Yeah.
Now, the more I learn, it's like there's nothing better, really, because it's not isolated. It's not an isolated compound. It's just the wholeness of, because nature is very complex, really. We are all very complex. You can't sometimes when you just focus and you take one bit of a compound, which mostly Western medicine is based on, it does that little one thing, and sometimes because it's so singled out, it might affect other parts of you in a negative way, because it's taken out the natural way of being for that medicine, whatever it is. it's a lot of times it's an enhanced compound, like one singled out compound, and then we'll probably mix with some other things that are not based in nature, but are man-made. Oftentimes, also, they're not organic, basically. So yeah, herbal medicine. I'm also very much into, and I'm also actually doing course on that now. that
Yeah,
that was something that I was wanted to do following my nutrition course at the university. And I just started studying flower essences and herbalism now, actually. So, and like you say, they definitely go hand in hand.
yeah.
You don't have to choose just one thing, but yeah, that's the one modality that I wanted to mention because I just find it very interesting.
Yeah, I started getting more into it last year as well. I bought a couple of books on the different types of herbs and what they do. Started to grow a few of my own, although they didn't do very well. I think I need to wait to the spring. And I went foraging as well with a lady in Devon who sort of shows you some edible wild plants, talks about the benefits of them and where you can find them. I just love it. I just get so excited by it. For me, I really hope I don't jinx myself saying this. Hang on, there's some wood here. Touch wood. I don't really get sick. I'm still touching that wood. I don't really get sick. I'm going to say it again. So physically, I don't have any ailments that I need to heal. So I haven't really had a need to seek
Mhm.
out natural medicine as such. But I have had a few bits over the years. And when I think back to the stuff I've taken even as a kid, mum was quite into homeopathic medicine and mum and dad were both into natural remedies.
Mm.
And I didn't even realize it until I actually looked back and I look at my skin products and stuff, and it's all natural stuff. It's all organic. It's just essential oils, and you know, as little other stuff as possible. And I make my own. I started making all my own products just to so I know exactly what I'm putting into my skin. I mean, our skin is
Yeah,
the biggest organ. What are we rubbing in our faces? You know, what's going into our bodies? So I've got really into looking at ingredients lists and actually really trying to simplify the things I'm ingesting and consuming. Even perfume, I've gone right off perfume. I don't know what am I spraying onto my skin and absorbing into my body. I don't even know. So I've sort of gone right back to basics and just like tried to eradicate as much as possible, so that I'm a bit more in control of what's being consumed.
yeah, yeah. Good going. Yeah, I've also been growing up in an environment of where we used herbal medicine. Or I mean, I say we, but mostly it was me and my mom, and then we would rile up my dad also, and make sure that he gets some, but he wasn't as often doing it as we did. Let's say it wasn't so, it wasn't that much on it, but yeah, definitely another thing. I was growing up reading all the books about I think even energy healing. I'm just thinking, oh no, think like reflexology and nutrition and what kind of, how to improve your health through the foods that you eat, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, we had the same thing growing up. I remember mum had a book. It was like her Bible. She just loved this book, and it was called Foods That Harm and Foods That Heal. It was a Reader's Digest book. This is going back to like the 80s, so you can still get it because I've got a copy. She bought me one. It's like that you must read this, and it just talks about the natural healing properties of certain foods and what they're good for. Which, you know, sometimes what they're good for might not be what your body needs, but yeah. So there's been a lot of that over the years, but I think there's a real revival in it at the moment that people are looking more into the way of the ancients, the way of our ancestors. What did they used to use? That's not to say they're in perfect health, because we have had a lot of advancements, but some of the most basic natural methods still work, which is why we're still using them. So as long as we don't disconnect from that and remember that we're part of nature, so let's work with nature to feel better where we can.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the way the medicine is these days, it's actually quite recent if you think about it on a scale of, the whole existence of Earth.
Mm,
So, I mean, we must have been doing something well if we've survived all of these centuries.
exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. Okay, unless there's anything else that you wanted to mention, maybe Mel. I don't think there's anything from me. Maybe actually one thing that just popped in my head is past life regressions, how and why they might help, even with physical ailments. And from what I understand now, I haven't. I also have, luckily, touch wood, just like you, haven't been sick, majorly at all in my life. I kind of attribute it to my maybe focus on health, partially. Um, so I haven't actually gone to have a past life regression for the reason of a physical ailment of some sort. However, I do understand that you could have some issues this lifetime because you had them in the past lifetime. And sometimes when you have a past life regression, realizing what happened and what sort of problem you had, already that knowledge releases the illness from you in this lifetime, or at least it helps you somehow ease through it. Or is that right? Is that something that you have also heard, Mel?
Um, I've heard it. I haven't. I've experienced past life regression myself. I've had 3 sessions, but I've needed to heal emotionally. But
Yeah.
really, like I said, I'm going to do it again. Touch wood, because I don't really get sick. I haven't had to use it for that purpose personally. So my experience was emotional healing. But yeah, if you've got a physical pain and you don't know where it's come from, or a phobia that seems a bit weird, I've always had a belief that I've come into this life with a load of phobias that don't make any sense. So they must be connected to something before I came here, because I've had them since as far back as I can remember. So phobias, fears, pains, unexplained issues, things that are recurring physically, mentally, and emotionally. It's worth having past life regression therapy just to see what comes up and go in with
Mhm.
an open mind. It's a very healing experience from my experience of having it.
Yes, yeah, definitely. And you might go to have a past life regression for the reasons of wanting to heal something emotionally, and you might see that afterwards, oh, actually, let's say your hips suddenly feel better or something, also because you've released the emotional, burden of some sort.
Mm.
So yeah, definitely. I Now that we talk about it, I know I've been told when I was doing my Reiki um, certification, I was told that my issue with my leg is coming also happened in my past life. But since then, I haven't looked into it
Yeah.
much. So I have, like I said, I'm not sick. Also, touch wood. But on a mechanical level, let's say my knee and my hip is a little bit needs a little bit of attention. So maybe I should have a past life regression focus on
Mm.
that and see what comes up. I might.
Yes, an intention before you go under, if you like,
Mm,
that's what you want to go to a past life where that can shed some light on this current issue, if it is connected to a past life, and then
mm,
yeah, go with the flow and see what comes up.
yeah, yeah, that would be interesting to see. I
Mm.
think either way, just exploring our past lives is quite can be quite healing in itself, because we might find why we are the way we are this lifetime. We can find a lot of that in our past lifetimes. That I have noticed, because I have done a couple sessions now with someone. I have done maybe a couple before that myself, but I'm not sure how well that went, because again, it was like I was doing it by myself for the first time, really. Um, yeah.
Mhm.
Right. Okay. So I think for an introduction to an energy healing, that's actually quite a bit that we covered. Um, it was just to give people an idea of what they might expect and what is it about, really. If you have any questions, as usual, please let us know in the comments. If you'd like us to talk about something again, a little bit more in our next live broadcast, then let us know also. Or if you have any other suggestion when it comes to spirituality, well-being, let us know. And hopefully, if it's something we can cover, we will. Yeah. Anything else from you, Mel?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. So thank you very much for listening, everyone, and we'll see you next time.